This is the letter. It lands in your mailbox, often sandwiched between junk mail and credit card offers. It looks innocuous. It might even be confusingly phrased, littered with bureaucratic jargon and acronyms that make your eyes glaze over. You might think, oh, just another piece of paper from the VA. You might set it aside, planning to look at it later, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. That hesitation, that simple act of procrastination, is precisely the point where your financial security begins to unravel. This piece of paper is not harmless. It is a ticking time bomb, a bureaucratic tripwire designed to halt your monthly compensation checks. Ignoring it is the single most expensive mistake a veteran can make. We are talking about the difference between your benefits continuing seamlessly and waking up one morning to a zero balance, a financial shockwave that can take months, sometimes years, to stabilize. The core problem is that the Department of Veterans Affairs does not send out warnings that are clear and bolded in red ink. They send out development letters. They send out requests for information. They send out notices of intent. These documents use language that often sounds like a routine checkup or a simple administrative filing requirement. But behind that sterile language is a mechanism for benefit reduction or outright termination. If you receive a letter asking for updated medical evidence or clarifying your current employment status or confirming your current living situation, you must stop everything and treat it like an immediate emergency. We are not talking about the standard annual cost of living adjustment notification. We are talking about the specific targeted communication that indicates a review is underway. A review where the burden of proof is subtly shifting back onto your shoulders to maintain the status quo. You need to know exactly what kind of letter spells disaster, why it was sent in the first place, and the immediate, non-negotiable steps required to disarm this threat. Your financial future depends on understanding the bureaucratic language of danger. The Trojan Horse Letter. Identifying the specific documents that signal imminent danger. The first step in defense is recognition. Not all VA mail is created equal. The most dangerous letters are often disguised as routine inquiries or development notices. They are designed to gather information that the VA adjudicators can use to justify an adverse decision. If the envelope contains a letter titled Notice of Proposed Adverse Action, or Request for Information Regarding Continued Entitlement, or Notice of Intent to Reduce Benefits, you are already in critical territory. These are the explicit danger signals. However, the true Trojan horse is the letter that simply requests updated medical records concerning a specific service-connected condition, or perhaps a letter scheduling you for a new compensation and pension C&P examination, specifically a CHAR re-examination for a condition that has been rated stable for years. If a re-examination is scheduled, especially for conditions that are not protected by the 5-year, 10-year, or 20-year rules, the VA is actively looking for medical improvement. They are seeking evidence to demonstrate that your condition has become less severe, less debilitating, or perhaps even resolved. The VA operates under the premise that if they send you a request for information necessary to maintain your entitlement and you fail to provide it, they are legally justified in suspending or terminating your benefits due to a lack of evidence. This is a crucial loophole they exploit. They don't have to prove you are no longer disabled. They only have to prove that you failed to cooperate with the process of establishing continued entitlement. Think about a veteran receiving individual unemployability, IU, benefits. The VA may send a letter requesting updated employment information, verifying that you have not been engaging in substantially gainful employment. If that letter gets lost in the mail, or if the veteran is undergoing a stressful period and forgets to fill out the complex form, the VA can issue a decision based on the lack of response, concluding they cannot confirm continued unemployability, leading directly to benefit termination. This is not malicious intent. It is bureaucratic efficiency leveraged against the veteran's often fragile physical and mental state. The sheer volume of these letters, the technical language, and the tight deadlines are often enough to trip up even the most organized veteran. Every word in these development letters is weighted, and you must read them not for their surface meaning, but for the underlying regulatory justification they are seeking to establish for a future denial or reduction. The hidden trigger. What action or inaction likely caused this letter to be sent? Letters of adverse intent rarely appear out of thin air. They are almost always triggered by a specific event, and identifying that trigger is essential for crafting your defense. Often, the trigger is something the veteran initiated without realizing the secondary implications. Did you file a claim for an increase in a different service-connected condition? When the VA reviews your file for that new claim, they are legally permitted to review all related conditions. If the records you submit for the increase inadvertently contain medical evidence suggesting improvement in a condition currently rated, it can trigger a review of the stable rating. Did you recently undergo a major surgery that was successful, leading to a significant functional improvement? If that surgical report makes its way into your VA medical file, it can trigger a review. The VA system is designed to look for discrepancies and changes in status. Another massive trigger, particularly for those with mental health ratings, is the lack of consistent treatment. If the VA sees a long gap, say 18 to 24 months, where you have not sought treatment, attended therapy, or received prescription refills for a condition like PTSD or severe anxiety, they may interpret this absence of evidence as evidence of improvement. They may assume that if the condition were truly severe, you would require ongoing, consistent medical intervention. They send the letter to schedule a re-examination, not necessarily because they know you are better, but because the lack of recent data suggests the rating may no longer be accurate. Furthermore, age-related reviews are common. As veterans reach their mid-50s and 60s, the VA may initiate reviews to ensure that conditions rated based on occupational impairment are still accurately reflecting the veteran's capability, especially if they are approaching or past standard retirement age. Every time your file is open for any reason, a dependency change, an address update, a new claim, the entire rating is potentially exposed to scrutiny. The letter you received is the echo of that file review, the signal that the adjudicator found a piece of information, or a lack thereof, that warrants questioning your current level of compensation. Understanding the trigger allows you to anticipate the VA's argument before they formally make it. Shaman? The 10-day trap. Decoding the critical response deadlines and why missing them is catastrophic bureaucracy thrives on deadlines, and the VA leverages them ruthlessly, often giving you far less time than you realize. The most dangerous trap is the short fuse hidden within the development letter. While many standard VA communications offer 30 or 60 days to respond, letters proposing adverse action, specifically those related to benefit reduction or termination, often contain a critical, shorter deadline, sometimes as short as 10 business days, or 30 calendar days for more complex responses. The 10-day deadline is often associated with the right to request a hearing before the decision is finalized, or the right to submit additional evidence before the proposal becomes a final decision. Missing this window is catastrophic because it allows the VA to move forward based solely on the evidence they currently possess, which is often insufficient or skewed against you. Imagine receiving a letter on the 5th of the month. It demands a response by the 15th. If you wait until the 16th, the VA is legally permitted to proceed with the reduction. The key concept here is due process. The VA is fulfilling its due process obligation by sending the notice and giving you an opportunity to respond. If you fail to utilize that opportunity, you have essentially forfeited your immediate right to object to the proposed change. The sheer volume of legal and medical documents required to effectively counter a proposed reduction cannot be gathered and submitted in 10 days, especially if you need to coordinate with private doctors or secure official copies of records. This is why the clock starts the moment the letter is postmarked, not when you actually read it. Furthermore, the submission method matters immensely. Relying on standard mail when facing a tight deadline is reckless. You must utilize certified mail with return receipt requested or upload the documents directly through the VA's secure online portal, ensuring you receive a digital confirmation stamp that proves the date and time of submission. The VA will not chase you down. They send the letter, they wait for the deadline, and if nothing arrives, they move to finalize the reduction. This administrative efficiency is the greatest threat to your continued compensation. You must treat every deadline, no matter how short, as absolute and non-negotiable, prioritizing the response above all other tasks. The evidence gambit. What specific documents the VA is really looking for and what information you should never volunteer. When the VA sends a development letter, they are not asking for a summary of your life. They are searching for specific actionable evidence that either confirms their suspicion of improvement or allows them to close the case due to lack of cooperation. The evidence gambit is knowing how to satisfy their procedural requirements without providing ammunition for a reduction. If the letter is triggered by a review of a physical condition, they are looking for objective medical findings, recent imaging results, laboratory tests, or specialist opinions that explicitly detail your current functional limitations. They are not interested in subjective pain reports. They want range of motion measurements, muscle strength assessments, and evidence of how the condition impacts your daily life, specifically your ability to work. You must provide current, relevant evidence that directly contradicts the premise of the review. If the VA suspects improvement, you must submit evidence demonstrating continued severity or even deterioration. Conversely, there are things you must never volunteer. Do not provide information about hobbies or activities that might suggest a higher level of functioning than you claimed previously, unless those activities are specifically related to prescribed therapy. For example, if you claim severe mobility limitations, do not volunteer that you recently took a long trip involving significant walking, even if you were in extreme pain afterward. The VA will focus on the activity, not the subsequent pain. Crucially, if the review involves individual unemployability, i.e., never volunteer detailed information about volunteer work or non-monetary activities that could be construed as substantially gainful employment. The VA defines gainful employment broadly, and even unpaid work that requires significant time and effort could be used to argue you are capable of maintaining employment. Stick strictly to the questions asked in the letter. If the letter asks for updated medical records, provide only the records relevant to the condition under review and the time frame specified. Do not submit your entire medical history. Every extraneous document is a potential pathway for the VA to find a reason to reduce your rating. The goal is surgical precision in your response, providing just enough definitive, objective medical evidence to halt the adverse action without opening the door to new areas of scrutiny. The reduction review process. Mapping the bureaucratic journey of a benefit reduction. Understanding the journey of a proposed reduction gives you the necessary foresight to intercept it at various stages. The process is highly regulated, governed by specific sections of the Code of Federal Regulations, CFR, and it generally follows a predictable multi-stage path. Stage 1 is the sign initial proposal. This is the letter you received, the notice of intent to reduce or terminate benefits. This notice must outline the specific reasons for the proposed reduction, citing the evidence they currently possess, or the lack of evidence due to your BOM, non-response, and the specific regulatory authority allowing the reduction. Critically, this notice must inform you of your right to a predetermination hearing and your right to submit new evidence within the specified deadline, often 60 days, but sometimes shorter for procedural matters. If you fail to respond adequately, or if the VA reviews your submitted evidence and finds it unconvincing, the process moves to Stage 2, the final decision. Or, this is the letter confirming the reduction or termination, stating the effective date of the change. Once the final decision is issued, the reduction goes into effect. However, the fight is not over. Stage 3 is the appeals process, initiated by filing a Notice of Disagreement, NOD. The NOD must be filed within 1 year of the final decision date. At this point, the veteran must choose one of the 3 appeal lanes: the supplemental claim lane for submitting new and relevant evidence, the higher-level review lane for arguing the VA made an error based on the evidence already in the file, or the Board of Veterans' Appeals lane for a direct appeal to a veterans law judge. Each lane has its own strategic advantages and disadvantages, and the choice is critical. Filing an appeal, especially a supplemental claim with strong new evidence, can often lead to a stay or reinstatement of benefits if the reduction was egregious, though this is not guaranteed. The bureaucracy operates under specific presumptions. For example, if a rating has been in effect for 5 years or more, the VA must show sustained improvement in the condition to reduce it. If the rating has been in effect for 20 years or more, it is considered protected and can only be reduced under specific, rare circumstances such as fraud. The reduction review process is the VA attempting to legally justify overcoming these protections. They are looking for definitive medical evidence, often from a new C&P exam, that demonstrates the veteran's functional capacity has materially and consistently improved, and that this improvement is likely permanent. If the VA cannot meet this high burden of proof, the reduction should theoretically fail. But the system is complex, and the default outcome for a non-responsive veteran is always adverse action. Mapping this bureaucratic terrain, from the initial intent letter to the final board appeal, is the only way to ensure you are meeting the procedural requirements at every turn, preventing the VA from terminating benefits simply because you missed a critical form or deadline. Chato. The specific scenarios of danger. Breaking down. Danger letters related to specific benefits. Different benefits carry different risks, and the danger letters associated with them require tailored responses. The most volatile areas are individual unemployability, IU, aid and attendance, A, and dependency benefits. Individual unemployability, IU. This benefit is constantly under threat. The VA sends annual Request for Information Regarding Unemployability forms, VA Form 21-4140. While routine, failure to return this form results in the immediate proposal to terminate IU benefits. The specific danger letter here often follows if the VA receives information suggesting the veteran has been working. This might come from an internal audit, Social Security records, or even anonymous tips. The danger letter will demand proof of income or lack thereof, requiring highly detailed financial documentation. The defense must be robust, proving that any work performed was marginal, below the poverty threshold, or was protected therapeutic work that does not constitute substantially gainful employment. If you receive a letter questioning your IU status, you must immediately secure documentation detailing all sources of income, proving the inability to maintain consistent, gainful employment due to service-connected conditions. Aid and attendance, A and A. This benefit is paid to veterans who require the aid of another person for daily living activities. The danger letter here is usually triggered by a change in living situation or the death of a caregiver. If the VA sends a letter asking for confirmation of your current living arrangement or the services being provided, they are assessing continued need. If the veteran moves into a facility that provides a lower level of care, or if the documentation of the care provided is deemed insufficient, the VA may propose termination. The defense requires current, detailed statements from the caregiver and the treating physician confirming the continued need for assistance with activities of daily living, ADLOHS, or supervision due to mental incapacity. Dependency benefits. These benefits are paid for spouses, children, and dependent parents. The danger letter usually concerns eligibility, a child turning 18, a child graduating college, or a change in marital status. While usually straightforward, the danger lies in the timing. If the VA sends a letter confirming a child's impending graduation and requests confirmation of continued student status, and you miss the deadline, the dependent's benefits will be suspended. The key defense here is proactive communication and submission of documentation, e.g., school enrollment verification, before the deadline, ensuring continuous eligibility is maintained without interruption. Each benefit has its own regulatory vulnerabilities, and the specific language in the danger letter will always point directly to the eligibility criteria the VA believes you are currently failing to meet. The immediate defense strategy. The 3 non-negotiable steps to take the second. The letter arrives. When the adverse letter arrives, panic is not a strategy. Immediate, systematic action is required. There are 3 non-negotiable steps you must execute within the first 48 hours of opening that envelope. Step 1. Document and log everything. Immediately scan or photograph every single page of the letter, including the envelope with the postmark. This establishes the exact date the VA sent the notice and the specific deadline. Create a dedicated folder for this claim review. Next, write down the date you received the letter, the name of the VA office that sent it, and the specific type of action proposed, e.g., proposed reduction of PTSD rating from 70% to 50%. This meticulous documentation is your first line of defense against any future claims by the VA that you missed a deadline or failed to receive proper notice. Time is your most valuable asset, and logging the timeline is critical. Step 2. File an intent to file, ITF, or request an extension. Even if the letter concerns a reduction, filing an intent to file, VA Form 21-0966, immediately establishes the earliest possible effective date for any new claim you might need to submit to counteract the reduction. More importantly, if the deadline is tight, immediately contact your accredited Veteran Service Officer VSO or representative, or submit a formal written request for an extension of the response period. While extensions are not guaranteed for all deadlines, a timely request demonstrates good faith and may buy you crucial weeks. If the letter is a notice of proposed reduction, you must immediately submit a written statement requesting a hearing and stating your intent to submit additional evidence. This single act forces the VA to pause the adverse action until the hearing and evidence review are complete, preventing the immediate implementation of the reduction. Chakram. Step 3. Secure current, objective medical evidence. The VA is proposing reduction based on their evidence or lack thereof. Your only counter is superior evidence. Immediately schedule an appointment with your treating physician or specialist. Explain the urgency and the specific rating criteria the VA is challenging. You need a detailed current medical opinion, a nexus letter or medical statement that addresses the VA's specific concerns and clearly outlines your current level of impairment, using the VA's own rating schedule language. The doctor must explicitly state that the condition has not improved or has worsened, and detail the functional limitations that prevent you from working or functioning normally. This evidence must be submitted well before the deadline, preferably with a cover letter referencing the specific VA file number and the date of the adverse action proposal. Do not rely on old records. The VA wants fresh, objective data that speaks to your condition today. These 3 steps, documenting, pausing the action, and securing new evidence, are the immediate operational priorities that transform a passive recipient of bad news into an active, aggressive defender of their benefits. D'après. The long-term shield. How to structure your ongoing medical records to preemptively defend against future reduction reviews. The best defense against a sudden, adverse VA letter is not reacting to it, but ensuring it never arrives in the first place. This requires structuring your ongoing medical care and documentation with a specific long-term defensive strategy in mind. The goal is to create a continuous, undeniable paper trail of chronic impairment. Consistency is king. The number one trigger for a reduction review is a gap in treatment. Ensure you're attending regular appointments, even if your condition feels stable. For mental health conditions, maintain consistent therapy or medication management appointments. For physical conditions, ensure regular checkups, physical therapy sessions, or pain management visits. Every visit creates a record, and every record confirms the ongoing nature of the disability. The VA cannot argue the condition has improved if your records consistently reflect the need for ongoing treatment. Focus on functional limitation. When speaking with your doctors, shift the conversation from mere symptoms, e.g., "my back hurts," to functional limitations, e.g., "due to the pain, I can only sit for 30 minutes before I must stand, and I cannot lift more than 10 pounds. The VA rates based on functional capacity, not pain severity. Ensure your doctor's notes reflect these functional limits clearly and consistently, using quantifiable metrics like range of motion measurements or limitations on daily activities. If you are unable to perform certain tasks, make sure that inability is documented in the medical file. Annual self-audit. Once a year, conduct a self-audit of your VA file or have your VSO do it. Review your rating decisions and identify which conditions are most vulnerable to review, i.e., those rated under 10 years and not static. For those vulnerable conditions, proactively secure a current medical statement confirming the condition remains unchanged or has deteriorated. Submitting this prophylactic evidence to your file ensures the VA has recent data supporting your current rating, making it harder for an adjudicator to initiate a reduction review based on a perceived lack of current information. This long-term strategy transforms your medical file from a simple history of ailments into a robust, living legal defense against benefit termination. The VA system is complex, often frustratingly opaque, and designed to move forward unless actively stopped. That seemingly harmless letter is the system moving forward. It is the bureaucratic machine initiating a change that will impact your life dramatically. You must recognize the specific, threatening language of a development letter, understand the hidden trigger that caused it, and execute an immediate, surgical defense strategy. Do not let the VA's procedural deadlines and confusing language strip you of the compensation you earned through service. The moment that letter arrives, your financial stability is on the line. Act immediately, document everything, secure new evidence, and never ever miss a deadline. Your future security depends entirely on your informed and urgent response.